I use various pieces of hardware and software throughout the construction, research, planning, and evaluation stages of my advanced portfolio. For example, whilst filming, I had used a Canon 700D whilst filming the videos made to present my research and planning tasks. I had also used this camera in order to film my final product, as it allowed me to capture a good quality video whilst being very easy and convenient to use. However, to optimize the way in which I use the camera, I had to do some in-depth research into the camera and the different settings which adjusted the camera's practicality. Using YouTube, I had viewed the videos of various channels where their main focus is to give viewers the information needed to film with a DSLR. Some of the channels which I had used to receive information were DSLR Guide, Rob and Jonas's Filmmaking Tips, and DSLR Video Shooter. These channels allowed me to get the most of my camera, such as the use of the bokeh effect and the depth of field within my shots. For example, in my own short film, I had shot a scene where the protagonist, Sophie, is seen playing the violin. The violin is surprising for the protagonist to be played by, as she has been stereotypically presented as someone who is uneducated and is likely to be under the influence of drugs and alcohol. This allowed my cinematography to advance, showcased throughout my production. Bokeh is the out of focus part of the shot, created by the lens of the camera. The effect allowed the other violinists to be seen out of focus, therefore emphasizing the presence of Sophie within the room. I had used the standard 18 to 55mm lens on the camera, which has an aperture range of 3.5 to 5.6. To achieve a slight bokeh effect, I had to keep the aperture slightly lower than I had set it as throughout the rest of the production. I was able to create a more intense bokeh effect to the shot. However, I was happy with what the aperture range which I had set it to had given me. If filmed at 18mm, giving me an aperture range of 3.5, I believe the shot would have been too blurred and the effect would not have been used in an operational way. To keep the brightness of my camera at a high constant throughout my shot, I had kept the aperture as low as possible, which allows the iris of the camera to be as wide as it could be. This was achieved by setting the camera at its lowest focal length for the majority of my shots, such as the ones which were filmed outside, which was 18mm. This allowed as much light to enter the shutter, creating a visible yet subtle edit to the shot. Another tip which I had picked up on was the use of manual focus opposed to autofocus. This is due to the noise which is made by the camera being automatically focused, which would be picked up by the internal microphone. The manual focus must be adjusted throughout every shot, as the object or person which is being filmed would be at different distances, as well as under different lighting in almost every clip. Lighting was another key feature of the camera which I had grasped an understanding about. For example, on the DSLR which I had used, there was an ISO speed option, where the choices would range from 100 to 25,600. This setting would differ the image noise throughout the shots which were captured by the camera. Image noise is the level of graininess which is within the footage. Therefore, a higher level of ISO speed means the grainy effect is maximized. On the other hand, a low ISO speed allows a crisp, clear picture to be captured. I also use various additional hardware pieces such as a tripod, a shoulder brace, a tripod dolly, and a Mac. These pieces of equipment allowed me to capture a more professional film, with the variation of shot types and the movement within each one. I used the tripod when capturing a shot which needed to be completely still. The shots were used mainly when the protagonist is seen entering the building where her violin rehearsal was set. This was used to connote to the audience that stability and groundedness is achieved by attending these rehearsals, where she is at the place where she is needed. I had used the shoulder brace and tripod dolly whilst showing the protagonist walking, which allowed the camera to be shown as being unsteady. These equipment pieces were used when showing Sophie walking towards the rehearsal. The variation shots allowed the film to be more skillfully executed, advancing my knowledge in the film industry. I had carried out the production of my research, planning, and construction tasks all on my personal MacBook Pro. This hardware device was very beneficial to me, as this portable laptop allowed me to complete any work which needed to be done any place I wished. This allowed me to access websites such as YouTube, Virgin Media Shorts, and Short of the Week, where I was able to view other people's short films, as well as tips and suggestions on how to film my own short film. This allowed me to research into the existing genre, enhancing my knowledge on the current market. Furthermore, when I was completing work at school, I would be using a Mac. The Mac is very efficient when carrying out work towards my portfolio, as it had many softwares which I would not have had access to otherwise, such as Final Cut Pro, Adobe After Effects, Adobe InDesign, Adobe Photoshop, and iMovie. These softwares were all used at some stages within my portfolio. I had mainly used InDesign and Photoshop in order to complete the ancillary tasks, which were the creation of a film poster and a magazine review. Photoshop was used to edit the image which I had taken of the protagonist to layer onto my poster and review. I had used Photoshop to color correct the image as well as slightly adjust the skin tone of the actor. For example, in this side-by-side comparison of the two images, you were able to tell a huge difference when I was able to create when editing the image in Photoshop. The skin tone needed to be changed as it had shown a pink tint on the skin of the actor within the poster's image when unedited. It allowed me to demonstrate my image editing skills as well as my capability in Photoshop. I had learned how to use Photoshop efficiently through the research of the software on YouTube, where I had watched a specific video in order to change the skin tone of the protagonist. After these images had been created, I inserted them into a software called InDesign. This platform was very effective to use whilst constructing the ancillary tasks, as it was accurate and precision allowed me to create professional looking text. iMovie was an editing software which I had used often to create the research tasks which were necessary for me to complete. I had opted to use this software when creating videos which did not need heavy amounts of editing, as it was easy to use and would export videos very quickly. However, for my final product, I had used Final Cut Pro to edit, due to its advanced capabilities and the options which were available on the platform for things such as audio and visual effects, as well as transitions. I used the color correction tool in the software to make clips visible and similar to other clips which are beside them, in order to maintain continuity. This made it possible for me to contrast the dark clips at the beginning of the film to the bright, warm shots that are shown at the end. It also allowed me to layer numerous amounts of sounds on top of clips, which was especially useful when I created the soundscape within the short film, where the protagonist is seen having a panic attack. Adobe After Effects was used to create the opening titles of the short film. These titles were also able to be created in Final Cut Pro. However, I was not happy with the quality and positioning of the text when it was created in the software. The titles were similar in that there were only two consecutive screens when text was layered on a black background. I chose for the titles to be this simple, as it is conventional within the genre. The websites that I had used to present my research tasks were GoAnimate, MindMeIsta, TikToki, Weebly, and Pictochart. I had used a large number of websites to create different ways to showcase my research, which were all then added to my Wix website. These platforms allow my research to be shown through a creative and interesting way, further showing my knowledge in the uses of technology. It also enhanced the visual aspect of my website, maintaining professionalism. As well as using YouTube for research, I had also used the platform to upload any research tasks as well as drafts of my copy of the short film. This allowed my research to be shown in various methods, such as the style of an X-ray examination or a weather report. The drafts of my final short film, which I had uploaded, were then able to be viewed by my target audience, as I would send them a direct link to view this production. From this, they were then able to give me feedback on the aspects of the film that they enjoyed, as well as parts of the films where they believed change was needed. Another website which was particularly important for me was DaFont, where I had downloaded the majority of the fonts which were used on the poster, magazine review, and in the short film itself. One font that I had downloaded, which was heavily within my portfolio, was called DIN Alternate. This was used as the font for the opening sequence, the title on the poster, and on the magazine review. The last technological hardware device which I had used in the research section of the portfolio was a Wacom Bamboo Pen graphics pad. This pad allowed me to annotate screenshots of 2 short films, which were Sahar and Even Cowboys Get to Cry. This was an effective way in using this hardware device, as it allowed me to show the viewers of the research what I was specifically talking about when doing a frame analysis, as well as writing brief notes on the screen. This recent innovation allowed me to show how I am up to current trends with the use of technologies in the media industry.